He was beloved by so many, his yoga community, his friends, his family. Then he disappeared. Police believed at the time there was no imminent danger, but then weeks later, he was found dead. I'm Elizabeth Millner with Law&Crime. This case is truly troubling on all levels. Marcus Freiberger was set to go on a blind date last month. Then he disappeared. Then his body was discovered at a rock quarry. So was it a murder? Well, as of right now, that remains a mystery. On February 21st, Marcus was supposed to go on a blind date. It's unclear with who, but it's also unclear if he actually met up with this person. But on that day, Marcus did drive to downtown Phoenix, parked at a parking garage. Then he was never seen or heard from since. It's unusual, right? And also worrying. Marcus's family and friends thought so too, especially since he left his beloved dog alone in his apartment. One of his friends told People magazine Marcus did everything with his dog, whether it's trips to the dog park or taking his dog hiking, and if he needed to, he would call someone to watch his dog. But his adored pup Thomas was by himself for 6 to 8 days. Marcus's father even told local news outlets he last spoke with his son on February 21st. Nothing appeared unusual or out of the ordinary. But that same night, he noticed Marcus's phone was disconnected. They called more and more and more, but no answer. Phoenix PD then got a hold of the case, but not until March 14th. So 3 weeks after Marcus's family last heard from him, and 3 weeks after he was supposed to go on that blind date. According to Phoenix PD, in a statement, they said no additional leads or evidence were discovered to determine if Marcus left town or fell victim to any particular crime. But according to Marcus's loved ones, they suspect something terrible happened. He left his dog alone in his apartment, they couldn't find his truck, and he was still missing at the time. But then on March 19th, their worst fears came true. A body was discovered at a rock quarry. The Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the body was Marcus. Marcus's sister confirmed the horrible news as well. In a post to Facebook, she wrote, quote, "It is with a heavy heart that I share the tragic news that Marcus is no longer with us. Losing him feels like losing a part of ourselves, and I know this will be just as difficult for you. We thank all of you for the love and support you have given Marcus and our family." It's heartbreaking to imagine. Her comments are flooded with condolences and kind, sweet messages about Marcus, which goes to show how loved he truly was. But what happened to him? Well, that's unclear. There's no suspect, no persons of interest, no cause or manner of death yet. Just police saying it's a death investigation and they are waiting for the medical examiner's report before next steps. So it's all just pending. But detectives are asking for anyone with information or knowledge of anything to call them. Even in terms of where Marcus was found, feels and seems suspicious, but we just don't know what happened at this time, leaving many, especially loved ones, just wanting answers as this horrible mystery still continues. I'm joined now by missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today. Police say their investigators are working the case, but in your opinion, are we looking at foul play here?
Just by the location that he was found, a rock quarry, it certainly would appear to me that there's foul play involved. It's not, although there is a hiking trail that kind of wraps behind the back of that facility, certainly does not cut through the rock quarry, and the fact that his vehicle wasn't there in that parking lot that we know of anyway, it looks to me like there's going to be foul play involved.
And right now, police are just kind of classifying the case right now as a death investigation. They're still waiting for the results from the medical examiner. But as far as searching for a missing person, what all goes into that from someone in your expertise?
So they knew the area that he was going to meet a potential blind date, I believe, which is a parking garage around 2nd and Avenue and downtown. Anyway, that area is covered by surveillance cameras. I had many missing persons cases in that area. So I think, that it would have started by, finding out how he left that parking garage. And from there, tracking either him or them on foot or on the vehicle. And there's license plate readers all over Phoenix. So I think it wouldn't be that hard to get an idea where they were at. And then, of course, the area, although it's a remote area, this rock quarry, it is absolutely covered in surveillance cameras, so all around the perimeter. So if somebody did do this, they picked the wrong place to get rid of him.
Exactly. And, I know a lot of people just kind of forget that part that we're in 2025 now. There's a lot of surveillance cameras just everywhere, even places that you don't think about. So I'm sure investigators are going to be kind of combing through that video footage there. And I assume investigators are also going to want to speak with whoever Marcus went on that blind date with, or if the person he was set up with. We don't know who that person is, but how important is whatever they have to say going to be?
It's going to be very important. Obviously, until now, I'm got to assume that they've spoken with that person, but until they have and they've gotten comfortable with that person, that's their primary person of interest, right? I'm not saying they're suspect, but person of interest that they have to talk to. And I am a bit surprised, given the length of time, that person maybe hasn't revealed themselves online or in an interview or whatever it may be, to say, hey, listen, I'm that person, and I just want everybody to know in advance to tamp this down that nothing went wrong. But we don't know who that is, and we don't even know if they actually ever met up. So you certainly can't blame that person. But if I was them, I would kind of want to get ahead of this, just because the day and the age that we're in now, where social media is going to find this person out eventually, and I would want to get a little bit ahead of the story. I guarantee that police are telling them not to speak with the public, though, if they're not involved, and that can be a catch-22, because although I kind of understand why investigators might want it that way, to the public it won't look that way.
Yeah, especially.
But to answer your question, they are the most critical. They are the most critical piece of this puzzle right now, whether they're involved or not.
Yeah, especially since Marcus seems so beloved by, the yoga community there, as well as just all of his friends from the various places that he had lived. And I think oftentimes, true crime watchers, when they hear a case like this, that a person goes missing after a blind date or was going to meet up with someone for a blind date, that the conclusion is kind of quick to come to the person, whoever that person may have been that Marcus was going on that date with. But in your opinion, should we be jumping to that conclusion, especially given the possibility they may never, or we may not know we don't know this at this time, but given the conclusion that they may not have met up that day?
It's so dangerous to come to these conclusions. Unfortunately, we see it in virtually every case now. And I do a lot of Amber Alert cases, and we see it against the parents. People automatically assume the parents are involved, or just anybody that's named with this person, the last person that could have been with them. This person is critical to the investigation, but likely could be critical as a witness, somebody that could help get justice if justice needs to be served, not as the suspect. Could they be? Sure. Everything's on the table right now, but you can't. It's so dangerous too. And like you said, this is a person. Listen, yoga is a passion of mine, and I'm familiar with these studios in Phoenix area because I'm licensed out there. So I've worked there a lot, and he's got a very good reputation, very likable guy. And you got to assume that he probably attracts those type of people into his life, and so this person is very important, whoever it was that he was going to meet up with. But that doesn't mean that they're a suspect. That means they can be very important to put the pieces together. But social media has got to stop this rush to judgment, because the internet's forever, and these accusations weigh heavy on people. They really do. And so many times it's not the case. Right.
Yeah, and especially since we have to wait until, the allegations are actually made, until police say that this is the person that we believe, we have to wait until we do jump to that conclusion. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
To me, I found a big clue just kind of in diving through the reports is that a lot of friends pointed to the fact Marcus left his beloved dog behind. His dog was in his apartment in his home for about 6 to 8 days before before friends discovered the pup was just all alone by themselves. What do you just kind of make of Marcus leaving his beloved dog alone? Do you think that kind of points more towards, the possibility this was foul play?
I think it does, or either foul play or some sort of medical emergency that he didn't have control of. But I don't believe he'd be in that area if that was the case. We see when people leave, if people decide to harm themselves, let's say, and they go missing for that reason, they usually take care of their pets are one of their biggest priorities, and they make sure that the pet is with somebody safe or is in an area where people know will immediately be able to take care of it. So I don't believe we'll see that that's the case here. I think that the pet is an indication that it's either foul play or it was a medical emergency of some sort. But again, unless they're saying that he's found in the rock quarry, unless they're talking about the perimeter, which there is a walking path, but again, it's a small walking path and it's used a lot. And I don't think it would have taken that long for somebody to come across him if he had just gone out for, a walk or a hike and had some sort of cardiac event or something like that. So I think it leads. There's foul play is a good possibility here.
And given you're familiar with that area, is there a lot of parking nearby where the quarry is, given that investigators and Marcus's loved ones are still looking for his truck?
There's another big piece of the puzzle, right? Where is that? And with all the license plate readers we have nowadays, and Phoenix is covered with them, and especially that area of downtown. Now, they might have the truck. I will say I've dealt with Phoenix PD many times, and I have some recent missing person homicide cases with them. They are slow with the information. So they could have it and just not be saying. My guess is that with all the cameras along that around that quarry, they have these portable surveillance camera stations every 150 feet or so. You can literally go on Google Maps and do street view, and you can see them all because they have so much equipment there. And plus, it's a dangerous area because of a quarry and there's machinery. So that person or him arriving there, I believe, will be captured on video. If it's foul play, my guess would be they know who they're looking for right now. They're just looking for that person and probably keeping a low profile. But I imagine them and the marshals are probably zeroing in on somebody.
And yeah, I want to go back to a point you had just made too, just about the timeline of everything. And that's something that kind of stood out to me in this case is that, according to the flyer, Marcus was missing since February 22nd. Phoenix PD says that they didn't receive a missing report until March 14th, but they also say they found no leads or evidence Marcus left town or fell victim to a crime. In your opinion, what do you make of the timeline? But also, do you think that in a way, Marcus's disappearance wasn't taken seriously? That's a long time to be missing.
So that gap between the time him of that blind date and him being reported missing, it is a long time. There's no doubt. But I also know, because I only do missing person cases, that there's this hesitation by friends that we don't want to get in their business. Maybe they just needed a break. Maybe there's personal issues going on in their life. Now, that is a long time to report it, but we also find out that the medical examiner had his body for several days, before that was disclosed. And I know that they said that they ID'd him through fingerprints. So that should have been a same-day process because they literally roll the prints electronically in the intake of the medical examiners, and they know from the FBI database instantly. And so long as they can make notification to the family, which I believe that they were able to do because they were known, it shouldn't have taken that long. I don't know why these gaps are. I do understand that people can be hesitant to report them missing, especially if maybe they have some things going on in their life where maybe he has a history in the yoga community of going and doing retreats, or because that is something in the yoga community, to get away and to tune out all the excess noise and everything. So maybe there's that thought there, but it is a long, time. There's big gaps, and so, but I give some grace on both sides, I guess. I do think it's a little long for police or a little quick for the police to come to that conclusion that there was nothing to worry about, especially when it was known that he was going to be meeting this person, and there's so many cameras in that area. I think that within a day or two of investigative work, they should have had an idea of under what circumstances he left that parking garage.
And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the urgency when it comes to missing adults. Obviously, when children go missing, there's the Amber Alerts, and everyone is quick
Yeah.
to go and investigate these types of cases. But with adults, it doesn't seem that the urgency, in my opinion, is always there because, like you had mentioned before, there's a lot of explanations you can do, especially when it comes to adults. Maybe they wanted to get away, maybe they were off, didn't tell someone, that type of thing. But what do you make of just kind of the differences between the sense of urgency when adults go missing versus when children do?
It's something I deal with every single day, and it can be frustrating. At the same time, I understand adults have the right to go missing. We don't have to tell somebody if we don't want to, and unfortunately, law enforcement will lean on that a lot and say, "Listen, they have a right to privacy." However, now, unless they have medical conditions where they can be classified as at risk, then they're actually not looking for the person. They'll put them in the NCIC database, and if they have contact with law enforcement, they'll be flagged to make sure that they're okay. But they're not looking for them. But there's got to be more. There's got to be some protocols. There's got to be an in between, because when you have enough people in that person's life to say, listen, this is completely out of character for the person. This does not match their MO. This is a 45-year-old man who's never done anything like this before, who doesn't have this history, who does always check in with certain people, whose social media or devices don't go offline. It can't be so black and white where it's like either they have a medical condition that puts them at risk, or they're a voluntary missing person. I just feel like there's got to be an in between. There are a lot of people that call law enforcement and use them as a service to find friends that they just haven't seen in a week or two or whatever, unfortunately, and that what kind of bogs down the system, because you get all these people put into the missing persons databases. But cases like this, where they waited a while to report it in the first place, and then had a lot of people saying, listen, something's wrong. I think that there's got to be, it can't just be voluntary or at risk. There's got to be some sort of middle ground to where there's enough evidence to show that this person does not have a history of this type of behavior, and they need to be looked for.
And it's just so devastating overall, especially for his family, for his loved ones, for the yoga community, that just essentially anyone who had loved and adored Marcus. Steve Fisher, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and appreciate so much your insight into cases like this. Before we sign you off, though, where do you think everything's going to go from here?
I think we'll, wait for classification from the medical examiner's office, whether it's a homicide or not. And then I think investigators, once that determination is made, my guess is they're probably waiting for toxicology to come back, which does take a long time. But once a determination of it was a homicide or not, I think we'll probably get an initial statement from law enforcement to give us an idea. If it is foul play, my guess would be in the next 1 to 3 days we'll see an arrest. I think that they know who they're looking for at this point, and they're just looking for them.
And of course, we're all kind of hanging tight to see what happens next, what that toxicology report reveals, or just the medical examiner report reveals in general. Again, Steve, thank you so much for your insight into this case. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.
And again, Phoenix PD is still investigating the case. They are asking anyone with information about Marcus's disappearance and death to call them, or they can remain anonymous by calling Crime Stoppers or Silent Witness. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.